Well, to see Alan and Lisa Robertson today, you'd never guess that 20 years ago, Alan ordered Lisa out of their house. Lisa was left broken and sobbing in their backyard. Both of them had brought serious baggage into their relationship, beginning long before they were married.
In 1999, Duck Dynasty's Alan and Lisa Robertson had been married for 10 years. Alan suspected Lisa was having an affair. And when she confessed, Alan asked her to move out.
At that point, I was like, I don't want you here. I don't want you in our house. I don't want to sleep in the same bed with you.
Devastated, Lisa knew she had to change her heart.
I have nothing. Without God, I have nothing.
Betrayed, Alan had to learn to forgive. Their crisis became their turning point. 20 years later, Alan and Lisa share how they learn to forgive on a daily basis in their book, Desperate Forgiveness, and why they help others do the same.
Please welcome back to the 700 Club, Alan and Lisa Robertson. Great to see you guys.
Thank you.
You're the only couple from your whole clan that I haven't interviewed. So
There you go.
this is
You
important.
saved the best for last.
That's exactly right.
I did. Well, Alan, the two of you began dating in high school. What had happened and gone on in your life that Lisa was not aware of?
Well, I had, of course, our family's history is pretty well documented. I grew up in a non-Christian home, but I was actually the best of the lot.
Of the worst.
Yeah, the worst. Because I went to church, the pastor was up the street, and so, I learned all the right things. When I became a teenager, like a lot of teenagers, I got drawn to the dark side, and it led me to being a prodigal son. Unfortunately, the greatest regret of my life was that I met Lisa at this point, and she was in love with me since middle school. She had stalked me, all over the playground, so she needed someone to guide her in a good way, and instead I corrupted her and made it worse.
Lisa, what secret from your past were you hiding?
Well, I had several. I guess the first one that I really think links the whole past together is that whenever I was 7, I had a family member who started molesting me. And that lasted until I was 14. And at that point, I was, old enough and big enough to put a stop to it. But then at 16, I had been dating a guy for about 9 months and found out I was pregnant. And so I went and talked to my parents, and we decided that, the only thing to do with this blob of tissue, because that's what we were told, was to get rid of it. And so, of course, now at 53, I know that that was not a blob of tissue, that was a child that I aborted. So you combine all of those, and then you go into a marriage, and you bring a heck of a lot of baggage with you.
Well, 10 years into your marriage, Lisa, all this stuff finally came to a head. What happened?
Well, I had been working for Al's parents, doing duck calls. And so I was taking orders, and someone called one day, and it was someone that I used to date. And, small talk became, even intimate talk. And so I had an affair.
An emotional affair.
Right. Initially, yeah. And then, after that, it was a full-blown affair. So it
went on for how long?
14 months.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And, the thing that plagues me is that I ask God for a way out all the time, every day, because I want it out.
Right.
And he always showed me the door every single day. He gave me a way out because he does that. If we ask for a way out of sin, he will give us that way out. For me, it was honesty.
Right.
And I've never been honest because, starting at 7 years old, I couldn't tell what was really happening to me.
So even you saw the door, and that was, telling Alan you just couldn't take it at that point.
That's right.
But Alan, what happened? Because there was a day where you all sat down, the kids were in bed, and you finally confronted Lisa. What happened?
Well, I did, and because I was going crazy. I'm trying to be an associate pastor at our church, a large church, and all this is going on in my own life, and so you kind of go crazy. And so it was a relief to me when she finally told the truth. But what's interesting, Wendy, is that, and this is what the book is about, whenever she was afraid that I couldn't forgive her, her fear is that I would walk out that door and never come back. So God was showing her the door of honesty. But I had not been a person who could receive honesty, and therefore it led her to think I couldn't forgive her. And so that was really our breaking point. And so in the book, we talk about being desperate. And that's what put Lisa on the back, yard with her face down in the dirt, pleading to God. That's what put me numb, sitting in my living room chair thinking, how do we get to this point? We were both desperate and broken.
Because you had known about the emotional affair, but you gave her a warning.
That's right.
And when you found out it was more than just emotions involved, you kicked her out.
I did. I said, I don't want you here. I don't know that where we're going to go with this. I said, but, I don't want the girls going with you. And so we were apart. We were separated. And I had a lot of people advising me, because she had the emotional affair, now an affair. She's never going to change. You got to move on. And a lot of people in my church were telling me that.
And even though you were an associate pastor.
Exactly.
And supposed to be able to forgive, you were struggling.
Oh, big time. Big time,
So what happened next?
Well, at that point, whenever I don't say this lightly, but I had a truth, I threw up the truth.
We call it truth vomit.
Yeah, I really did.
Wow.
I just vomited out everything that had gone on, since I was a little girl, and just told him everything. Yeah. Probably many things he didn't want to know, but at that point I had to get it out. And whenever I did, it was amazing what God did to me, inside of me, once I got that out. Yeah. Now, at first I was empty because I thought there's no way we're going to make it. But I went out into the backyard and I just said, God, I don't even know if you're real. I don't know if you hear me. But at this point in my life, if you're real, would you please come and rescue me? And what's amazing is that I didn't have to get, all cleaned up or anything.
Right.
He came to me right there where I was.
Right there in the mud with your face.
That's exactly right.
And your book is called Desperate Forgiveness. Alan, what is desperate forgiveness?
Desperate forgiveness is getting to the place where you've tried everything you can to fix whatever your relationship issues are. You're bitter, you're hurt, maybe you're addicted to drugs, you're trying to fill this void with something, and you get so desperate you think there's no answer. I don't know how to fix this. At that point, you can finally embrace the forgiveness of God. And then sometimes you need to extend forgiveness to other people to fix a relationship. Sometimes you have to ask for it because, you've been needing for someone to say, I love you, I forgive you. That's where Lisa was. She needed to know. And so I just validated what God had already put in her heart, and that is we can forgive, we can move forward.
What are some steps you both recommend now to people struggling with similar situations who are struggling with forgiveness?
Well, first and foremost, I would say start now.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. Because, I carried this all through my childhood, my teenage years, into my marriage until I was 33 years old, before I allowed God to heal me of, all the things that had gone wrong.
Because you were in love with your husband. So the affair was just the root of all these things that had happened to you.
The darkness that continued to grow inside of me.
Yeah.
And at that point, whenever, God just took that away from me, and he did take that away from me. Now, I had to do the work, and I had to study and I had to go through counseling.
And he had to forgive.
That's right.
And that's work.
That's exactly right.
And sometimes that doesn't happen in an instant. It's a daily decision to keep forgiving.
You have to say the words and you have to mean them. When you have to say the words and mean them. I made a deal with God. God, I know you forgive me. I want to forgive Lisa the same way. And that means that I can't bring this up every time we have an argument. And we're 20 years removed now, and I've held to that deal that I made with the Almighty. And you do that every day.
Praise the Lord. Well, I read in your book that you now are more happily married now than you've ever been. You're older and wiser. Not that old. So happily married after all of this. How can that be?
We finally said a few years ago, and it took a long time to say this, that we would live through everything again, as bad as it was. Our young life, the affairs, all of it, to know that we could get to where we've been for the last 20 years. That's how awesome and blessed our lives have been. We have 6 grandchildren, we have 2 children. They're living that same forgiveness that they saw in us. And we're their spiritual heroes. And that happens not because you're perfect, but because you're imperfect and willing to show what God can do.
Wow, I can't even imagine the hope that you are giving some couple that's watching right now. The book is called Desperate Forgiveness. It's amazing how mercy sets you free. And wow, thank you so much for telling your story and being so real and raw. So you can also check out our Facebook page to hear more from Alan and Lisa. Just go to facebook.com/700club. And what is it about you, Robertsons? You guys just keep bringing the books and bringing these amazing stories, and God is using you guys so much, even after the shows. I guess now in reruns?
Yeah, for 2 years. Because God built us a tremendous platform. And he didn't mean for us to sit on our laurels and say, weren't those guys funny 5 years ago? He's like, I got work for you to do. So,
Amen.
and we feel like now we're doing it.
And you know, we want to give other people that same hope that we have.
Yeah.
And so to do that, you have to share it. You have to tell
share
your
it.
story.
You have to open your mouth.
That's right.